Welcome to this presentation on alternate assessment techniques in large courses. My name is Merv Mosher. I'm a professor in the School of Kinesiology and Health Science at York University, and I wanted to share with people who are interested my experiences using alternate assessment techniques in large courses. So what I've done is broken this presentation down into 6 parts. You can see the parts listed on the screen. Each one of them will be short, hopefully no more than 10 minutes. And I will pause in between each one to give you a chance to refresh, take a break, stop, whatever. So without further ado, let's get started. I do want to acknowledge the assistance of a number of people that helped me out this past semester when I attempted to use alternate assessment techniques in my large courses. And as you can see, there's some people from the Teaching Commons, which is a very underutilized resource here at the university, and a fellow faculty member in computer science, James Smith, who got me thinking about this, trying to use it in larger courses. So thank you to these folks. So let's get started and ask the question, why would I try something different in my large courses? And to give you the answer here, I'm going to start with an assumption. It may seem controversial to some of you, but the goal of education is supposed to be about learning. So everything I've done in this presentation is based on the assumption that the goal of education is that of learning. Now, a couple questions arise. In large courses, is it possible to use something other than multiple choice tests to facilitate and assess learning? The second question is, will student learning be affected? Will it be better, worse than, the same? So these are a couple questions that obviously come to mind. Now, just to give you a rough idea about the courses that I'm dealing with and that I use these alternate assessment techniques on this term, there were 2 of them. Course A is a second-year kin course called Research Methods. The enrollment is approximately 750 students. Course B is a third-year kin course called Skill Performance and Motor Learning, and the enrollment was about 650 students. As is indicated on the screen, I have taught these courses for decades, and I've used a very traditional approach. Basically, 2 midterm exams, weekly labs, and a final exam. The percentages, the weekly labs were worth 10 to 15% of the course in total. Each midterm was 20%, and then the final exam would be 45 to 50%. This method worked fine. It's easy to implement. There's not a whole lot of arguments about right and wrong answers. The dates are set out. Here's when the midterm is, here's when the second midterm is, etc. So it works. The question I kept coming back to, though, is there a better way of doing it? Now, there are some other reasons why I got into looking at alternate assessment techniques. You might be familiar with some of these. I have found that the student's primary concern in courses is grades. They really don't care about the content that you're teaching. Most of them do not have a joy of learning. They simply want to know, what do I need to do to get an A or an A+ in this course? And that's all they're interested in. Now, I realize that's a broad brush that I'm painting all the students with, but that's my experience. The second reason is this notion of grade grubbing, and I'm suffering from fatigue. In other words, it doesn't matter what grade you assign, the student wants more. And the students are not hesitant about asking, what can you do to boost my grade? Will you boost my grade? They may phrase that lots of ways, and it may come across as grade begging or grade lawyering, but when you have over 1,400 students in these two courses, there's an awful lot of them that get into this grade grubbing, and I find it wears me down. A couple of other factors that come into play. Academic honesty issues with online exams. So the semester I was doing this was all online. A year ago when we were online, many of my colleagues in our unit spent a great deal of time figuring out how to prevent cheating. We did things like make sequential exam questions so that students can't go back and look up other answers. They can't change an answer. We did things like creating question banks and select random questions, made it the amount of time a student had to answer a question shorter. All of these things did work to some extent to reduce academic dishonesty, but at a cost to the students. Greater anxiety because you have to rush, you can't go back. I don't want to answer a question. Oh, I don't know the answer, so I'll guess. Those sorts of things were in fact somewhat stressful. Another factor, the number of accommodation letters I have received has increased dramatically over the past couple of years, and I predict it's going to continue to rise. And so more and more students are asking for additional time to complete work in the course, particularly exams. Some other factors. I think it's only a matter of time before legislation is introduced at our institution that will allow students to self-declare absences. So they will no longer need an attending physician statement or the doctor's note or the note from the police, the lawyer, whatever it is. They will simply be able to say, I couldn't make the exam because of X. And what that leads to will be, I believe, making it very difficult to hold exams on specific dates because students will be able to continuously defer. Oh, I can't make it for this reason. Oh, I can't make it for that reason. So that, I believe, is going to be problematic. Another factor that went into my decision here was our school recently underwent a program review. And while it scored fairly high in most areas, there were a couple of areas that needed some improvement. One of the things was our students do not get enough opportunity to do writing assignments. The second thing was they do not get enough of an opportunity to do presentations. Because we have very large core courses, required courses that students must take, the opportunity doesn't appear for presentations or writing until upper level electives, and many students try and avoid those kinds of courses. So, is there a way that these alternate assessment techniques might address this problem? And then there are a couple of other factors. The first one here is Kaizen, which is a Japanese word basically meaning constantly striving for improvement. As an instructor, I'm never satisfied with my teaching performance, whether it's a particular lecture or the course as a whole. I always want to make it better, striving to make it better every time I do it. So, after doing 1 year of online learning, I wondered to myself, is there a way to make it better? Another factor is that I'm close to retirement age. I'm promoted as high as you can be promoted. I don't have to worry about tenure. So there's very little that I am gambling if this does not work well, right? So I've got tenure. I don't have to worry. I'm going to be retiring in the not too distant future. And so while I want it to work, I don't have to worry about it the way a new faculty member might. So all of those factors together, it seemed logical that I would be the one to try and use these alternate assessment techniques in large courses. If it wasn't going to be me, who would do it? I'm going to pause, stop there, and when I come back, we'll talk about second part, which is what were the alternate assessment techniques that I utilized. So get up, stretch,